Hey, what's going on? Ryan here with Intersection Records, and we're talking about HORDE Festival 93, 30 years ago. This week I went to HORDE Festival in Maryland Heights, Missouri, which is there's an amphitheater called Riverport. It was then called Riverport Amphitheater outside of St. Louis. Riverport being famous for the Guns N' Roses riot of 91. So HORDE Festival was something that John Popper came up with in 1992 to get some of the jam band. Around the early 90s, there was really kind of three big jam bands, Fish, Widespread Panic, and Blues Traveler. And there were some other peripheral bands kind of in that scene. And this idea was, horizons of rock developing everywhere is what HORDE, horizons of rock developing everywhere. And it was kind of a carnival, traveling carnival. And at the time, kind of following on the idea of Lollapalooza, which was an alternative rock festival. This was a jam band festival. And I did not know about it in 1992, although those bands were on my horizon. I had seen Widespread in 92 for the first time. I had seen Fish in 92 for the first time. In around this time, I'm getting into Blues Traveler. I'm getting into Widespread every day. By Widespread had just been released. I called my brother and said, hey, there's this HORDE Festival thing coming. He had heard of Blues Traveler. I turned him on to Widespread. And by the time the show on July 14th, 1993 comes around, tickets were $15.95, I think. We were able to get like 7th row, kind of slightly off center. And it was, again, it wasn't like nowadays where, it'd be $100 ticket. We're talking $15. The band's present that day. And time has made the order of these bands. But let's just say this, All Good, which was a jam band out of Georgia, I believe. The Samples from Colorado. Big Head Todd in the Monsters, also from Colorado area, I believe, Denver. And Aquarium Rescue Unit, Colonel Bruce Hampton and Aquarium Rescue Unit from the Southeast as well. Colonel Bruce Hampton and Aquarium Rescue Unit featured O'Teal Burbridge on bass. And Jimmy Herring on lead guitar. And of course, Widespread Panic was there with the original lineup, and Blues Traveler was there. This was also the day that the levee had broke and on the Riverport Amphitheaters near the river, and the levee had broken somewhere not terribly far from the amphitheater, and Blues Traveler played when the levee breaks. Well, John Popper was still coming off of his broken leg. He was still in kind of a wheelchair on stage, or a chair. They would bring him, he played some guitar. I remember at one point he was playing electric guitar or acoustic guitar and played it like this as somebody handed him an electric guitar, and he continued playing. So he was able to continuously play. Of course, he plays harmonica at a virtuosic level, and had the vest. He was still heavy at this point with the, really at that point, 93, just terribly heavy. When you break your leg and you're that big, I don't know if he weighed 400 or 500 pounds, but he was enormous. This was pre-gastric bypass surgery. They were absolutely amazing. Love and Greed. We're talking about just dealing with their first 3 albums. The first album with But Anyway on it and those big songs, Travelers and Thieves, and then Save My Soul, which is probably my favorite record. This is pre-Runaround Blues Traveler. For me, it's their prime. Bobby Sheehan's still alive and on bass. They were just a force to be reckoned with. My brother was blown away. He saw Widespread for the first time. Really, I guess it was my 3rd time seeing Widespread. I had seen them a couple months earlier in Memphis in May. During the day, they played a set on a Saturday, which was brilliant. But this was, my third show in about a year, feeling like this is my band. Widespread Panic did deliver the goods. They were just amazing. And again, they're playing off of the Everyday album, which is their third release. And, maybe their best record from start to finish. Just a fantastic, with Please on it, and Wondering, and Picking Up the Pieces. They were fantastic. I remember Colonel Bruce Hampton coming out and announcing Jimmy Herring, saying, "St. Louis's own Jimmy Herring." And we were like, "Oh, Jimmy Herring's from St. Louis?" Well, come to find out, I think Colonel Bruce did that at every venue on that tour, saying that your own hometown kid, Big Head Todd, was on their pinnacle album too. So you had Broken Hearted Savior, you had Bittersweet. The Samples was a band that I wasn't as familiar with, and somebody may correct me in these comments on where they are from. It was a band that was a little bit more highbrow in the scene, as far as not as jammy, more composed, shorter songs, and really not my cup of tea. All Good was a band that never really quite made it, but they seemed to be on all the opening slots during that early Jam Pan series, especially if you lived or went to school in the Southeast. They were huge. I guess what I'm saying here is, it seemed like 30 years ago is pretty hard to believe. It did kind of kickstart, this movement of HORDE festivals, which I think the next year Dave Matthews Band was on it. You get Ziggy Marley, and you get all kinds of bands, Rusted Root, and the Allman Brothers and Fish. The thing got bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where, I believe even like King Crimson was on a lineup at one point. Blues Traveler was always the one staple that would stay. But anyway, those are just some memories of HORDE Fest 1993. It was a great time to be a young jam band fan, and the pinnacle of really those bands with their original lineups doing some of their best work, and set lists that consisted of their best material. So check out my channel. We do shows every day. Peace out. We'll catch you later. See you.